Hello, and welcome to the Comedian's Paradise. This is a podcast where we speak to comedians, characters, clowns, and comedy promoters from across the globe. Now, today's guest is the brilliant Kajun Brooking, all the way from New Zealand. He's a man who is conquering the New Zealand comedy scene. He is the modern day Indiana Jones of New Zealand. Here he is, the fantastic Kajun Brooking.
Bro, that I love everything you said just then. Yeah, that was pretty much me. I don't know where you heard that from. I don't know where you heard that from, but man, bro, absolutely love it. Yeah, I can't even believe that you know who I am. You've heard of me, but I know how you have. So yeah, man, thank you so much for having me. Bro, really excited to see what happens.
Now, for people that are listening in, tell us a bit about like your comedy journey. Like, what was your journey to being a comedian, and what was it do you think that made you decide to be a comic?
Oh, bro, it's actually all like accident. Like when I was a kid, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Billy T. James. You guys heard of Billy T. James from New Zealand?
I've
Possibly not.
I've
He was
heard of the name, but I don't
yeah.
know of who he is. I've heard of the
So,
name
bro,
somewhere.
he was a Māori comedian. I'd say like back in the 80s, and I was a little kid growing up, and I used to love watching his show. My first ever stand-up comedian or comedy show that I actually saw was Eddie Murphy Raw, and that was when I was a little kid. So I've always loved comedy and gravitated towards it, but never once in my life, man, I ever imagined that I would want to be a comedian. Like never once, bro. Yeah, I never once sort of had any aspirations or anything like that to be a comedian. It pretty much all just happened by accident. But the other thing is too, bro. I grew up Māori in New Zealand, and growing up, well, I grew up in like in a gang area, so we didn't have a lot of money, and there's a lot of gangs around, a lot of violence, drugs, all that sort of stuff. Grew up in that kind of neighborhood and that environment, and we didn't have a lot of money, bro. But one thing we did have, bro, we had jokes, man. Obviously jokes, and that's all we could do really. We could just tell jokes and laugh and have fun. And as a culture, man, it's just part of our culture, right? Storytelling, laughing, all that sort of stuff. But never once when I was growing up did I ever think I would want to be a comedian. And then I'd say like 4 years back, bro, just out of the blue, my wife was going to a comedy show. It was a Raw comedy quest thing. And man, I'm a big troll when it comes to my wife, especially when she's posting online and that. I can't help myself, bro. And she jumped on there to say that she's going to this comedy quest. It was like a comedy competition, people were going into it. And I just jumped on there and started trolling. And I was kind of like saying stuff like, like, man, I bet you I'm like funnier than half these dudes on here. And then I was saying stuff like, you know what, maybe I'll just jump on there and show these dudes what I got. And I was joking, of course. But then I had a few friends that had seen the post, and then people were like starting to like it, and I was gaining traction. And I was thinking to myself, "Oh no, what's going on here?" And then me and my wife we also do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So at the
Oh,
same time, yeah, we were traveling the country, competing, bro, at like a national level. And so at my gym, I was kind of like known as the guy that never backs down, sort of thing. And then so my bros on my team, they were like messaging me and shit saying, bro, when you go out there, when you're doing this comedy thing, man, make sure you're confident. Go out there, tell your jokes. And I was messaging them back. I say, yo, dude, I'm not going to do this, man. Like, there's no way I'm going to go out there and try and do stand-up comedy. And then, the boys, they started messaging me back, sort of like trolling, just like, oh, bro, this guy's got no nuts, saying stuff like that. And like I was dropping balls and all this other shit. And because I'm one of those dudes that never back down, I thought, oh, stuff it, man. I'll go down there and try it. And I was only ever going to try it once. Rang the producer, said, bro, what I need? He said, like, you need to write down like 5, 6 minutes worth of material, come down, perform it. Um, I just got off the phone like a couple of days earlier for one of my bros that was in jail. And man, we were having this conversation while we were on the phone, and it was a hilarious conversation. So what I did is I just wrote about our conversation, and I went down there and performed it. And man, it went all right. Like I did quite well. People were laughing. I couldn't believe it. And then through that one experience, I won the wild card into the final that year. And yeah, that's how everything kicked off.
mm. How would you describe the So two things that I've started a bit of jiu-jitsu and it is a great sport. It's a lot of fun. I enjoy it. It
It is.
de-cleanses a lot of you. But another thing is, what do I want to say about it all? Um, yeah, well, how would you describe the feeling you get in jiu-jitsu and the feeling that you get in comedy when it goes well? Because they're both addictive.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Very similar. I think the funny thing is looking back, I think jiu-jitsu was what actually gave me the strength to be able to actually go out there and do the comedy as well. Because I was thinking to myself, bro, like I was rocking up to places, man. And like I went to we did the Pan Pacific Championship one year in Auckland. And I went there, bro, and I was going up against like the best dudes in New Zealand. And I was like shitting my pants, bro. Like, yeah, like before you compete, man, it's tough. The nerves, just everything. It's just crazy. The thoughts that are going through your head, all that sort of stuff. And to be able to just go out there and get it on anyway, just rumble dudes out, stuff like that. Try and get subs. That sort of gave me the strength. I was thinking to myself, man, if I can if I can do this, like if I can rock out there and fight people in front of all these people, how should we be able to go out there and tell jokes, But the crazy thing is, bro, that the feeling's very similar. Like, that feeling, the nerves, all that sort of stuff. Good thing is though, with the jujitsu, there's every chance you could even, come out of the stadium in a body bag. But like in comedy, you'd hope it just doesn't get that bad, Like you can have a rough night, but it doesn't get as rough as what it could be when you're doing jujitsu.
Yeah, I've seen it with the academy that I go to. It's a bit of it's a nice place and it's all right there, but yeah, what do I want to say about it? That could it there is yeah, I've seen whenever I talk to people there. So I work in a coffee shop near where the academy is, and they told me to come. So now I've started it, but I've always hear them talk about injuries, or they always talk about this happening, or this someone had this happen to them, or I'm always hearing about injuries that happen in jiu-jitsu, and it's a bit yeah, that's all. It's funny with that sport as a whole. It's called the Jed to art, but I'm not too sure if it is.
Yeah, bro. I mean, have you been injured yet?
The only injury that the only thing that I had was well, I'm more or less, I'm a hobbyist at the moment. I'm not like a
Yeah,
competitor, I don't feel. But one of them
yeah,
said that I should train 5 times a week because he says that I'll be a beast if I train 5 times a week, well 5 days a
yeah.
week. I do enjoy the sport, but I'm not gonna like go straight into it. If I do that, I'll build it up to it. But no, I just had a little bit of a chest pain. I took a few days rest. That's all I have. But I think I'll probably get something.
Oh yeah. Nah, dude, I've had probably the worst ones is I broke a couple of ribs in a competition, and that was sore, man. That took me a while to recover. But the cool thing is, I do it with my wife, so that's really cool. It's been really good for the relationship too, bro.
Yeah.
Bro, you can go there and you can choke the shit out of each other without getting arrested. It's man, it does wonders for the relationship, bro. Yeah, for sure.
What's your thoughts? I mean, what's it like? Because I know that people say you don't shit where you eat, but I notice in that gym that I go to, a lot of people definitely don't follow that trend. There's so many people in that jiu-jitsu gym that have been together, or like no, I mean that a lot of couples seem to form in jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I think maybe when I've been training, couples have showed up there. I haven't. I don't think I've come across many people meeting up there and forming a relationship. Yeah.
Oh, okay. What I don't know. That seems to be the case in where I'm trained. A lot of them met and they became a couple there.
Oh, yeah. So that's different. Yeah. That is definitely different because it can be quite intimate. Like I wouldn't say it's intimate, but you're in close quarters. But bro, everybody is not looking their best when you're doing jujitsu. Like yeah, I personally look like shit by the time I walk out of that place. No doubt, bro.
But it is a great sport and it's better than a lot of other martial arts in that no, not other martial, the traditional ones, the ones that sorry about kung fu or
Yeah.
them because they preach humility and all of that. But in jiu-jitsu and boxing and Muay Thai, you see there's a sense of honesty. It's not perfect. There's some arseholes in all of them, but I feel
Yeah.
that there's less of that than in the traditional ones because they're just completely full of shit.
Yeah, dude, the crazy thing is too, the whole jiu-jitsu scene has just taken off in New Zealand, especially when it comes to Māori. Now, when it comes to our people, we even have our own, like our own nationals, so our own national tournament
Oh,
for Māori. Yeah, and it's huge with the kids, but it's a really good sport to get them into nice and young, especially from our culture, bro, because I mean, I don't know how many generations back, but it doesn't go too far back where we were actually still warriors and stuff like that. So it's good for the youth and that to sort of be able to touch on it, or at least sort of have those sort of warrior instincts, but have a nice safe outlet for it.
hmm. So before this podcast, I thought I'd have a chat with a New Zealand. He's a kickboxing coach where I train the jiu-jitsu, and I thought I'd
Oh
try and
yeah,
get some information before I chatted to you. And he tells me that, and I tried talking about how Aboriginals are treated and how Maoris are treated, but he told me that in New Zealand Maoris are treated way better than Aboriginals, and that there's a like you have to learn two languages, right?
yeah. You mean here in New Zealand?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you're extremely lucky, yeah, you will get the two languages. But I'd say mainstream New Zealand, nah, bro, it's all English. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I'm not too sure what it's like in Australia, but yeah, I think both cultures have had their issues over the years, especially with the government and stuff like that, and especially with like colonization, things along those sort of lines. Man, I think there was probably a time where both Māori and Aborigine were sort of still on the same wavelength when it comes to treatment, stuff like that.
Oh,
I think New Zealand over the last few years has really been embracing it. Of course, there's still areas to work on, when it comes to, well, I don't know, but like the whole colonization thing and racism still exists, all that
oh,
sort of
okay.
stuff. But it's getting better and better. There's still a lot of protesting, stuff like that. Yeah, I think New Zealand's still working on it, but I think we're getting somewhere. And I think the way New Zealand's embracing the culture now, over the past few years, has been really good. Yeah, I think we're making ground.
What for people that I'm obviously from London, UK. I don't know nothing about New Zealand or what it's like for apart from pavlova. But what I don't know nothing about what it's like for Maoris in New Zealand. And could you
Yeah.
tell us a bit about what it's like and how things have changed in more detail?
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, it's so diverse, especially when it comes to our culture. So there's so many different, different groups within the culture. Like say, for instance, there's educated Māori, which grew up in the schools, and a lot of them were educated in the language and the culture. There's dudes like me, like we're kind of like I'll say we're like street Māoris. We grew up in those suburban environments, sort of low income
Mm,
and low income housing, all that sort of stuff, gangs and the violence. And then there's the ones that grew up on the marae and all that sort of stuff. So it's different, but I think we're moving in the right direction. One of the biggest things was I think in the past, it might have been like 6, 7 years ago, people will start popping up with the traditional Māori tattoos on the face. For the men, it's the tā moko, and for the women, it's the moko kauai, which is just in the chin area. And about five or let's say about 10 years ago, it was almost unseen, or there were only certain people that would have it. Man, nowadays it's a lot common. So when it was first coming out, a lot of people complained about it. Even people in public, especially Pākehā people, which is white people. New Zealand call them Pākehā.
oh,
That's the Māori name for it. Yeah, and so with Pākehā people, a lot of them got offended by the facial tattoos and all that sort of stuff, and it caused a big debacle. Even though it is part of our culture, but you fast forward like to nowadays, bro, and it's like everywhere. Yeah, you go into town, there's heaps of traditional tattooing, people's faces are done, and it just goes to show that in some ways we are moving forward and we're starting to embrace aspects of the culture that we didn't previously. Yeah, but the same problems for our culture, like, they still exist, bro. Just like the Aborigines and that, like gangs, alcohol, drug abuse, all that sort of thing. But but in saying that, we are moving forward, and we're sort of we're doing well in that department. Yeah, getting better and better. I think I'm not too sure what the statistics are like now, but for quite some time we were kind of like, even though we have a minority in New Zealand, we were the ones that sort of had the biggest population in the prisons and stuff like that.
Oh,
But as a people, we're coming together and we're trying to fix all that and trying to push our culture and move forward. Yeah.
and yeah, the only other thing that I know about Maori culture is the rugby thing, the haka. That's all I know as well. So,
Yeah. Yeah, well, see, even that, bro, like, for the country to be able to embrace that, because it is actually part of the Māori culture, but we use it in our national rugby side as well. And bro, that's another cool way to describe how our culture is moving forward is, man, I love it when you see the haka in rugby and in the rugby league, because now the teams are made up of so many different cultures. There's so many Pacificas that are born in New Zealand now. There's Māori, Pākehā, and then you get a team like the All Blacks, and everybody does the haka. That doesn't depend on your cultural background. I think sort of like New Zealand's embracing the culture to the point where a lot of the Māori culture is becoming part of the New Zealand identity, and it's kind of okay for all New Zealanders to embrace it, especially even the language. Yeah, you don't have to be Māori to speak the reo. Yeah, you can be any nationality really.
okay, no. Um, what's what? So things are changing for the better, and things are getting in a right place, but slowly. You can see like little progress.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So there's still protesting, there's still issues with the government, and they're still working on trying to right the wrongs from back in the day. But yeah, I think as a collective, the culture's doing really well. Yeah, to come together because we haven't always managed to come together in the past because really primarily New Zealand is just made up of like tribes that come from all different areas.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, everybody's got their own opinions and their own ways of doing things, and yeah, I think we're finally getting to that stage where everybody's coming together and everybody's working quite well.
Hmm. It's, okay. Um, and the grudges are setting aside, are they, from the different groups?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. New Zealand's actually it's quite multicultural, but then I mean, so it's probably where you come from,
Oh
eh?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. London is a complete melting pot of everything. I mean, I went to New York. There is a lot of mixes, but it seems that the mix is a lot more narrow. Whilst in London, it is completely everything.
Yeah. I bet. Dude, do you actually do comedy? You do comedy?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do. I
Yeah.
do it. I do it as a character. I play. Oh, for
Oh,
God's
your
sake,
character comedy, cool.
I play Asian Zorro. But
Well, that
it's
sounds interesting.
yeah, it's an interesting little thing. He's I just play around with it. I get a lot of heckles because of the outfit being completely ridiculous, and a lot of mad things happen. When you do an act that's a bit mad and out there, you're very Marmite. People either really like it or they're like. I had one guy, and he's a big Cockney geese, and he says to me, he goes, "Listen, mate, you were fucking funny. You were awesome. This is good." And he goes to me and says, I didn't get it, mate."
Yeah. Because even when I clicked on the podcast you do on your page and I was listening to it, and I didn't actually realize that you were like, I didn't even know you're called over there, man. Like you're from England or if you're from UK. But as soon as I jumped on, I could hear and you jumped on, and yeah, as soon as I heard the accent, I was like, oh shit, this dude's the real deal. You're the accent and everything, yeah. So what my accent must sound strange, but I guess, bro, you probably get like heaps of Kiwis over there anyway, eh?
I get a lot of I'll be honest, most of the Kiwis that I come across, yeah, just white Kiwis. But
Oh yeah,
I think I've come. There is one Kiwi that might be Maori, but I don't know if I should have say, "Are you Maori?" Because I don't know. That may come across as I'm British passport control. Listen here, Sonny Jim. Are you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, you start searching his bag and stuff. Nah, that's a tough one too because a lot of the Pacific nations and stuff like that, we all do look quite similar. And but I see, man, like there's even like bro, there's Malaysian dudes that I know that look like Māoris, you know. So it's
Ah,
you just never know, eh?
but I bet they sometimes pull it off. If they get a free meal in a Maori restaurant, I bet some of them try and pull it off. If someone calls
Yeah,
me
probably.
Filipino and they give me a free meal, I'm happy.
Yeah. Harder. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess we can. Have you ever heard of the actor Cliff Curtis? He's from New Zealand. He
I've
he
heard of the name.
plays. Yeah, he's Maori. He plays so many different nationalities, bro. Yeah, I reckon we could. Yeah, that'd be cool if I like took off and when it came to acting or something like that. I was thinking, so I wonder if I could probably like with the beard and shit, I could probably pass for a few different ethnicities. I'm guessing, maybe. Mm, mm.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
definitely. I think you could probably pass off as East Asian too. Or
Yeah. People have asked me in the past. I was actually wondering if we did have some kind of Asian blood in us because just because sometimes people have asked me. Yeah, and then I did the ancestry.com and
ah,
no, turns out nothing. Yeah,
nothing at
nothing
all.
whatsoever. Yeah. No, what the interesting thing I found out, bro, is that they did my DNA and sent in the DNA test, and I'm 53% Maori, 14% Hawaiian, and the most interesting thing I found out is that I'm now going to court for burglary. So yeah,
Oh, oh, okay.
I'm
That's a
not fucking thank God. Yeah, but yeah, you can just pass us so many things. I mean, bro, like you were just saying, I could probably go to I've got a Mexican restaurant, I reckon, just walk in like, hey, what's up, Berto? Yeah, I reckon I could pull off the Mexicano, bro. Yeah.
yeah, I think it would be a funny sketch to see someone to see that. Just get a few, look up online on Google phrases you need to know, and just see if you can pass by.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right.
But
Well, what are your nationality? What are you?
um, I'm English, Irish, and Chinese, so it's a
Ah,
bit
yeah.
of a weird one. So my mum's family came from an island in Hainan, uh, but they moved to Thailand because of the war. But everything in terms of the behavior and the culture is Thai. I've noticed that
Ah,
the
yeah.
Thais that they got a cracking sense of humor and they like to banter a lot. They're very friendly. The land of smiles, there's a reason for it, but they
Yeah.
also brutal and can be quite crafty with things. That is
Ah,
definitely
yeah.
true.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you feel that like being married that there are certain tropes that even though people make jokes of them, some of them not for everyone, but tend to be true. I know that with Thais, they're quite friendly, they've got good banter, but they are quite brutal.
Yeah. I'd say when it comes to Māori, all of them are true, bro. All of them are true. Yeah.
What what are the troops that people have in New Zealand for Maoris that you would say are true?
Oh, bro. But most of them are probably like stereotypically sort of possibly like unacceptable sort of thing. Like I don't know, like yeah, it's all stereotypes, but I guess some of it's true, and then some of it's probably not as true as it used to be. Yeah, but it's mainly the bad ones, bro. Like sort of being known for drinking alcohol and getting in trouble, but having a good time. Yeah, well known for doing well with the ladies, I
Yeah.
guess, and well, I hope, and yeah, well known for our rugby and our sports and stuff like that, which is good.
No.
I mean, surely, man, I'm sure there has to be Maldives playing in like England and even Ireland. I think Ireland's got a few. I think they've got Maldives playing in the team.
Yeah, I do remember the England had two big the brothers, the two big forwards.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know the names of them, but I know they had two used to have two Maoris that were massive. Oh God. Yeah, they were giants, man. My God.
Yeah, we had what's the dudes I absolutely love a man, the comedian. Is it Jamoyne? How do you pronounce his name? Jimian or Jimoyne? Yeah,
Northern Ireland, Irish guy or Irish
yeah,
guy.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I think so. He travels New Zealand and Australia quite a bit. But yeah, he came to New Zealand and he was hanging out with heaps of Māoris and he ended up coming up with some funny bits, say, about them, especially hanging out. He found them actually quite sort of well, I shouldn't say them. He found us quite sort of quite staunch and intimidating. Yeah, but he was a good joke writer, so he had some really funny material written about hanging out with Māoris and stuff like that. But a lot of sort of like beer drinking stories and sort of tough guy sort of stuff, the same stuff that you'd associate with like rugby and being tough and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
But so this is something that I learned from Skulk. He was one of the guests I previously had on. He's in South Africa, but this is what he learned from Trevor Noah because he mentions how South Africa's diverse, and Trevor Noah is able to win a lot of people over in South Africa because he understands all the groups in South Africa. So when he makes fun of them and tells a joke, he does it in a friendly way, but he does it accurately. So like for myself, sometimes being Asian, yeah, you get a bit of racism in New Zealand. I sometimes get a bit in London, but hasn't happened for a while. It happens occasionally. But the one that I get is I get called Jackie Chan. Now that is, I'll say that in a way, it's the guy's 60 years old. His face looks like a battered leather couch. I wear
Yeah.
glasses. We look nothing alike. If you made something like Bruno Mars with glasses or combined with Elon Musk, then maybe that would be true. But like when you say something like that, you've made a lazy assumption that has no accuracy.
That is real lazy. Yeah. Yeah, that is yeah, that is pretty lazy. I like the Elon Musk thing though. You sort of I can see where you're coming from there.
Thank you. uh, I'm gonna do a Nazi salute at the end of this episode.
But bro, that was what we were talking about earlier. Like, say for instance, it's working those different crowds and having that kind of experience, which Trevor probably obviously he did from from all the different people that he got to perform in front of, which probably actually helped him a lot too when he went to America and stuff like that.
Yeah, but if so with Jimmy Earn when he did that, when he was interacting, making jokes about Maoris, I'm guessing it wasn't done in a malicious way, and he did it with a bit of
No.
accuracy.
Yeah, no, exactly, bro. Like, that was the crazy thing about it, especially like being a New Zealander and being Māori and then seeing another guy's point of view and what he was seeing and like the spin he took on it, which was really funny, man. Because he does this part where because when it comes to like Kiwis and especially Māori, we have our own slang and our own sort of dialect and stuff like that, and he kind of nailed it too. But I think he does quite a few jokes about birds and stuff like that, and then he compared like a bunch of Māoris talking together, like a sort of like a pack of pigeons or something. And the way he did it, bro, like it was just it was just done to perfection, man. Because like you are playing with fire when you sort of like telling jokes about dudes, these kind of dudes that he was talking about, and people can be offended, but the way he presented it, man, was just like it was bang on the money, eh? Yeah, but I guess there's an art to that too. I mean, a dude like that, he's probably got all the experience in the world to just be able to bang out stuff like that. But yeah, yeah, same thing where you're sort of playing with fire, but yeah, you managed to pull it off. You did really well.
But you do the same sort of thing, don't you? Because you're gigging across different parts of New Zealand. How do
Yeah.
you manage to make sure that you connect with audiences in the right way?
Yeah, it's really interesting. I learned it really quick back in the day. There were things that I was picking up on really quick because of the diverse rooms that I was doing. And like, say, for instance, there was this one time I turned up to this one place and it was like an RSA. They have RSAs over there. It was where all the returned soldiers sort of hang out for that town. Like old war vets and stuff like that. They have a Returned Soldiers Association here in New Zealand, and there's a small beach coastal town, and they wanted to gig at their RSA, and I turned up there early in my career, and no cars, bro, nowhere. There's no cars anywhere, and I'm already thinking, damn, I got this. Hardly anyone showed up, and I think it was in my maybe my first year, but I'd already like built myself up to sort of to be able to headline shows by then. And so I went to this place to headline it. Thought no one was there. Walked in. There's about I think there's about 120 in the room, so it was packed out. The catch was everybody lived locally, so everyone had their own little beach homes and stuff like that. So nobody really drove. You know, they just walked down to the beach and so. But this place was packed out with like I'd say 120 white people. You know, like Pākehā.
Okay.
It's about 120 of them, and like two Māoris. You know, and I walk in that room and I'm like, man, there's no way these dudes are going to relate to my shit because you know I'm talking about you know my life, what it's like growing up being a Māori, so all this other stuff, and I go out there, I just tear this room apart.
Yeah.
You know, and the whole time just thinking to myself, man, these dudes are never going to get me, man. You know, and then I'm talking about stuff that I thought they wouldn't even really know too much about, and it turns out they did, man. You know, and it turned out that I learned really that you know because of my background, you know, growing up around the gangs and just being in environments with a lot of violence, a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol abuse, gambling, you know, you name it. Um, you know, thinking that not everybody knows what I'm talking about, and then to go out there and everybody relating to it, yeah, it was a real learning experience. But what I actually realized is that the um, the power that I had was that I could tell stories that nobody else could tell. You know, like because there's not actually many Māori or Pacificas actually in the you know in the New Zealand comedy industry, which is you know it's quite surprising. But yeah, going down there and talking about you know like tinny shops, like tinny shops are pretty much where you know the like drug houses where you're selling stuff from and all that sort of stuff. And you know, I was talking about you know tinny shops and solo mothers and you know like benefits and stuff like that. Yeah, and just ripped this room apart, man, set it on fire. And from you know that early stage, I thought to myself, well, you know, I've got the advantage of being able to tell all these stories about places that these guys haven't even really been. You know, they know about them, but they've never really heard about them. So for me to go out there and like start talking or sort of like shining the light on our culture when it came to things that they don't see, yeah, they were
Mm.
like all in. Yeah,
Oh,
they liked it.
what's been the flip side of that, where you feel like you've spoken to people that get you, but it's turned out the other way?
Yeah, well, that's the cool thing because then all of a sudden, you know, I thought to myself because I always thought that you know, I was a Māori comedian and I was looking to have a Māori audience and Māori following, and that's pretty much you know what my demographic was going to be. And then to go out there and find out that the Pākehās were loving that brand of comedy, because I'm talking about gangs, drugs, you know, stuff that they have nothing to do with, and they were just, you know, they just love every minute of it. But I think too, it's like shining a light on a side of life that they know about and they might read about in the papers, but they don't get that first-hand information, and especially not delivered in like a comedic way, you know, where I can sort of make fun of it or take like bad situations and make them into something funny.
Mm. But have you had an incident where, because there's a comedian that I've interviewed called Ada Camp, and she plays, oh, I forgot. Yeah, that's her character name. Her name is Naomi Paxton, but she plays a character called Ada Camp, which is a magician uh, character act, and she has a magic rubber duck, and she does magic tricks. And she often has a things where it's, there will be audiences where she thinks she's going to be shit at, but then there'll be audiences where she thinks she's going to storm at, and she does terribly. What's been an incident where you thought like, right, I'm excited for this gig. These people are going to get me. They're going to laugh like mad, but you did terribly. And what did you learn from that?
But you know something? And in all honesty, I have hardly ever done terribly. There's been times where I haven't done as well as I would have liked to have done, but man, I don't think I've actually like bombed to the
Whoa.
extent where, yeah, I've felt the feeling of being disappointed in myself because I didn't deliver as well as I could have, but I've never had a night where I've seen them, you know, like I've seen nights like that for other people, but man, I've been fortunate enough not to have one. Like there have been nights where I might not have got as many laughs as the previous night for the same set sort of thing, but yeah, I haven't crashed too bad. But on the times where you don't do as well as you thought you would, um, you just suck it up. It's just part of the job. You go out there, you do what you got to do. And the other thing is too, you got to remind yourself that it's so subjective. It can go any way. Yeah. And it depends. I usually go out there with, I would say, a majority of the time, like about 80 to 90% tried and true, and then just a couple of new bits in there just so I'm constantly testing the waters. Yeah, but yeah, when it comes to like going out there and not doing as well as you thought you might, you've really just got to go back to the books and analyze everything that happened. Yeah, be very strategic about your performances and what you're doing. Be good to yourself. Also, be open to be honest as well. And I go back over footage a lot. But bro, my biggest secret weapon for fast tracking and all that sort of stuff has actually been my wife, because my wife, she knows me so well as a person, and so she comes out to a lot of shows, she watches me, and bro, she's brutally honest, like with my performances, which is cool because she spots things that I don't spot, and I think you need somebody like that too. Like say for instance, there might be a night where still do okay, but there was something not quite right, or maybe a little bit off, or like you're saying, you're not getting exactly what you thought you would, but um, and I'll be driving home, and then she'd just say something like, "Oh man, your energy was off tonight," and I'd be like, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, yeah, you didn't seem to come with the same energy you normally come with," and I was like, "Oh, is that right?" She said, "Yeah," and so sometimes it takes somebody on the outside looking in to be able to like sort of identify just those little things to up your game, and then makes you a better person for the next time you go out there, or at least to try and be mindful of everything. There's even like jokes that I've told, and I've told in a particular way, and then I've gone out there and told it just a little slightly differently, and it's either worked well or it hasn't worked as good as before, and she can pinpoint that. Yeah, she'll say like, "Oh, I noticed, when you did that last joke, usually you take that quick little break, you look at the crowd, and then you do the punchline." And she said, "Oh, but you didn't do that tonight, it didn't work as well." So yeah, she's been a big help, just having people around you that are honest. I do like getting feedback, but as long as it's good feedback and it's by people that you trust to give you valuable feedback.
And
Yeah.
it's something that you can use, and that will make you better if it's productive.
Yeah, yeah, because with comedy, with everything I do in life, bro, even the jiu-jitsu and all my other hobbies, yeah, I'm just constantly building on it. Yeah, like I feel like every time I go out there, um, yeah, every time I go out there, I'm constantly building, trying to learn, trying to figure out what I'm doing good, what I'm not doing good, what I need to work on. I think as a comedian too, if you're serious about it, it's just like everything, you just got to keep working on it, exercising, getting that sort of muscle memory and the experience and all that sort of stuff.
Okay. What so you talk about jujitsu a lot. How do you think jujitsu has helped you be a better comic?
Um, I think it's just that it's that it's helped me when it comes to like that feeling of that sort of that fear, or that that little voice in the back of your head that's constantly telling you that you're not going to do as well as you think you are, and all that sort of stuff, and sort of dealing with that. Because Bruno, the one thing I touched on earlier is that I grew up in a family and all that sort of stuff, and we didn't have all the money in the world. We grew up in like the hood and all that sort of stuff, but we had the jokes. We're always laughing, and so as a culture, and especially my family, bro, everybody's funny, man. Like, everyone's funny. Whenever I go to family reunion and stuff, I've got like my notepad out, just waiting for bits. Like, these dudes are so funny, but the only thing that separates me from all the other members of my family that are hilarious is that I'm just like the one with the biggest balls. Like, no one else is going to walk out on that stage. That's the one thing that I have that separates me from them, and that's probably the courage. Just be able to go out there and handle whatever's going to get thrown at me, and still be able to accept like that if I go out and things don't work out, that's cool too. You can just cruise off and just take it on the chin, and keep going. But that's the one thing that probably separates me is and which comes back to the jiu-jitsu is just, knowing that um it could go really bad. You could have the worst night of your life. You could leave that stage feeling the lowest that you've ever felt. But you think to yourself, fuck it, let's go out there and do it anyway. Like, that's the mentality. You just walk out there. Most of the times before I walk out, and there's some nights where I just cringe at the fact that I'm a comedian. Especially the big shows. Like, I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck do I get myself into this shit again? Like I've got to go back out there and I sit there pondering with myself, I don't, why am I doing this to myself?
Mm.
And then you think to yourself, like, oh man, I feel like I'm gonna spew, or you think to yourself like, I don't want to do this anymore. And then you take all that and then you tell yourself, you know what, fuck it, just go out there and do it anyway. And then that's the guy I am. So I just walk out there and I just make it happen. Yeah. But jiu-jitsu's given me that. You walk out, you scrap somebody out. Even when you're in like the open weight, you go out there, you fight a bigger opponent, you just go out there and you just get it done.
How could jiu-jitsu help you fellow comedians, do you feel, as performers? Just resilience to dealing with rejection, you feel?
Yeah, yeah. I mean that's one thing it could do. I think yeah, I think with jiu-jitsu you just have a greater appreciation for everything. But yeah, it's that mentality of just being always being up for a challenge. Yeah, not sort of shying away. Because I kind of feel like with jujitsu, it's like you and somebody else, and you got to go toe to toe. So it's sort of it's a bit different, and you do have an audience watching most of these things. But when you go out as a comedian, it's like you going up against a whole room full of people. It's not just the opponent that's standing opposite you on the mats. It's like it can be anywhere from like 50 to 1,000 people in front of you. And it's the same thing, bro. You got to go out there and you got to take them on. You got to make them tap out, but from laughter more than hurt. Yeah, it's very similar.
Um, Now, for anyone that's listening right now, what what have been the biggest moments that have happened to you that have taught you the most, and what advice would you like to give to other performers out there?
Yeah, hard to say. I've had some big moments that have that have taught me a lot um over time. Probably the biggest thing, like one of the biggest reasons why I keep doing comedy and and I'm still doing it today. Well, it comes down to money. Like at the end of the day, with everything, comedy is a business. So that's probably the biggest advice that I would give to somebody is that, over time, I mean, bro, I know dudes that are good friends of mine and they're like 10, 15 years deep in comedy and still haven't got the opportunities that I've managed to land like over the last 4 years sort of thing, and one thing I've noticed that separates me to them too is that they always see comedy as like this entertainment thing where, you go out, you tell jokes, you're in the limelight, people see you, and I'm a comedian, and that's cool. It's cool to be a comedian. Um, I never see myself as a comedian. Like every time I go out there, I always see myself as a businessman.
Oh,
So I'm a businessman. I run a business, and what I sell is comedy. And so I don't see myself as a comedian or that sort of persona of being a comedian. I'm strictly business, and comedy is it's business to me. So for me, one of the biggest things, especially I notice, people were always asking me how I was making money. I was saying, look, man, I've been doing comedy for a while. How are you making money? Like where's the money come from? How come you're getting the money? And one of the biggest things was for one, it was the whole business strategy. Like, I thought to myself, man, this is a business. I'm from the hood, bro. I'm from like drug houses and shit like that. So I was already in those sort of environments where people had their own businesses and they're making money through like slanging drugs and stuff. And then all of a sudden, I make it out of that life and, I'm living a good life and that sort of stuff. But still got that sort of mentality. And then when I started doing comedy and I showed up to the shows, bro, I know somebody's making money. I know somebody's making it. I know these tickets being sold, all that sort of stuff. You crunch the numbers and you think, well, if someone's making money, I want in on that. But what I noticed in the early days was a lot of people that I was doing comedy with, they weren't talking about money. And so money wasn't actually being talked about. And, like I was getting paid on shows where some of my fellow comedians weren't. And then when I brought it up, they were saying, dude, you getting paid? I said, yeah, man, you getting paid? And they're like, nah. I said, dude, did you talk about the money? And they were like, oh, well, they never said nothing. And I was saying, well, if you don't say nothing, you may not get nothing. So one thing I advise or anything like that is not to be afraid of talking business, like talking money. I don't know if it's a thing in comedy where some people just don't want to talk about it, or they feel shy about talking about money. And I don't know how it is, over there, because I know people will be, vying for stage time, that sort of stuff too. But yeah, one of the main things is that, I make a decent amount of money just doing comedy, but it all starts at the start. As soon as somebody is interested in booking or anything like that, I'll say, hey man, we've got this. Are you interested? And they'll be like, yeah, I am. How much? So I'll just jump straight on the money. Yeah, I don't know if it's a thing with most places, but especially with Maori and Pacific Island, a lot of the brothers, man, they're a little bit standoffish about talking about that side of things, But yeah, when you're running a business, yeah, I'm all about it, bro. So I talk about the money first because um, I love comedy, but I'm not just doing it as a charity. I'm not just doing it for love and all that sort of stuff. It's a big money business, so you want to be a part of that. Mm.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's funny sometimes when I see comedians, they gig across the country, they do gigs for different promoters, but I'm thinking sometimes what they're doing is they may as just run one of their own shows rather than ask the booker, because
Yeah,
you may as well do that because the money you're making from some of the shows that you're getting paid for is too little, mate.
yeah, yeah. What's it like over there, bro? Is it like are people is there a lot of stage time over there, or are people still fighting to get stage time?
It depends. Okay, so the obviously gigs, paid gigs, big paid gigs. I'd say yeah, people are fighting for scraps effectively. But
Mm.
some of these scraps don't even pay that much, and but you can get a lot of open mic stage time. And quality stage, you can get a lot of that. And if you gig, you can gig across the country and get a lot of gigs. Um, but there's a lot of stupid things that go on in the comedy circuit. Like I remember I heard the story from another comic that so there's this great comic called Ian Stone, and this is a story that's been going in comedy for I think nearly 20 years. He did really well at a corporate show, and they saw him again at the comedy store, and they said to him, he got paid £700, right? But at the comedy store, they said it was the best £7,000 they ever spent, and he only got £700, whilst the promoter got well a lot more than that. But that's all he got from the whole thing. And there's a lot of things that like that go on. There's things like jonglers had an issue where comedians were still playing for them when they hadn't paid them for years. Also with what's his face again? It's sort of a laughing pod. People were still working for them even though they didn't pay them. There's also a common thing in terms of comedy clubs, which shouldn't be happening, but if they pay a comic, they take 2, 3 months to get paid.
Ah, yeah.
And
Wow.
there's a lot of that goes on. And a lot of gigs are paid, some of them are paid by cash, which I think is a bit, no, you should do it electronically, keep track of it. Um, Even if you do a shitty job in the UK, you get paid at the end of the month, like a dishwasher or something. But
Yeah.
I don't think you're winning in comedy if you're doing gigs across the country and yet you're barely making any money. Like, you may as well just run your own gig and just like work in another job. But yeah, you're right in terms of comedy being a business, but comedians and clowns and theatre actors are shit at business.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. It's the same as sort of
Shit.
when you
Completely
compare it to like
shit.
an artist and stuff like that. Yeah, but that's interesting, man, because that's another big thing that's actually helped me a lot and would be advice that I'd give too, is that comedy is all about relationships as well. Having different relationships with people, and another big thing is that that's where the money can come into it too, because from what I've seen when it comes to people falling out with each other, whether it's producers or comedians and all that, it always comes back to the money. There's always something that's happened with money, and then that's where all the trouble begins. If people aren't getting paid or stuff like that. In New Zealand, bro, people aren't getting paid. Um, I would say they would never work with each other ever again. It's that they get that kind of there's that kind of thing. I don't think anyone sort of held to a monopoly where they'd keep going even if they hadn't get paid. But yeah, one way, especially if you're new and you're starting out and stuff like that, especially to fast track your career is definitely just building relationships constantly. Whether it's with producers, venues, dudes like yourself, even jumping on podcasts or something like that. Just keep building those relationships because you never know when it'll all link up in the future and could be quite beneficial. Yeah, so a lot of my success and stuff, because bro, one thing I don't do is I never have to hunt gigs, so I never go looking for gigs. They just always just seem to pop up, and the calendar's full and you're getting booked. But all that has just come back to just building like solid relationships with people. I guess as a comedian, like just always being a good person, like that's part of the whole comedy thing as well, because it's easy not to be, but at the end of the day, too, comedy is all about, it's a business, but what you're selling to is laughter, happiness, and in its own way, it's its own kind of medicine. You know, it's really beneficial. So you don't want to ruin that with like, bad attitude or bad relations or anything like that, relationships, because I mean, really, comedy communities can be quite small when it comes to that sort of stuff, and it only takes one mishap or anything like that to start sort of canceling you out or things along those lines. So yeah, relationships is a huge one, and building good relationships, and like just always being a good person.
But it's hard to, yeah, it is, it's easier said than done.
Yeah, yeah. Well, one thing I really pride myself on not doing, which I know a lot of other people do, is trying not to be too competitive. When it comes to other comedians and stuff like that, I always just focus on me and not get too caught up about who else gets good opportunities or who's doing what where, or if the light's been shone on them. I just always focus on me and always remember to be a good person. Because another thing is, bro, I'm part of a group where we go around, we do comedy shows, but we're an all Māori and Pacifica lineup. And we all come from the same background, bro. Like, some of the bros have been ex-gang members and stuff like that, and so we go out. But the one thing we have to remember is that we're Māori, and one of the bros is Tongan, and a couple of the other bros are Samoa. So, but we've still got those old ways about us, those old hood ways. But when you're doing comedy, you have to be really professional. Although I'm not going to lie, some nights when I go out with the boys, and because we're all from the hood, man, there's like shenanigans going on. Like one of the boys might be arguing with his missus out the front, and then a couple of the others are getting too drunk, and stuff like that. And um, you really, I keep telling the boys, like, we've got to watch ourselves because it only takes one bad mishap with one producer, and then you could get blacklisted in that area, or the work might not come as often because they found out that you and your comedy mates had a dust up at one of the bars or something like that. So yeah, you just have to really focus on always sort of being professional, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard too, bro, when the bars are giving you like free alcohol and shit. It makes it a little bit more trickier. But yeah, you gotta, because I know a lot of guys in New Zealand that were really talented, were looking like they were going to go a long way, and then like the drugs let them down,
Oh,
sort of stuff like that. And then too much drugs, messed up a couple of shows because they were too high, and then you hardly ever see those guys ever again. Yeah, so just I mean for our people, for us, it's just trying to keep that professionalism, because even though we're Māori and Islander and stuff, you still have to sort of yeah, you still have to act quite professional, especially in some of these environments.
hmm. Now, for anyone that's listening in now, how do they find out about you?
Yeah, so I don't know, go down to your local police station. And nah, um,
And call 999.
yeah. But no, bro, I'm on most of the social media, platforms. TikTok. I don't do many TikToks. But I'll tell you what, bro. When I do, man, blam, they take off. Like they do all right. But I don't do too many of them. And I'm on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm under the same tag, which is just Cajun comedy, and that's it. But yeah, the other crazy thing is I'm not actually a social media kind of guy, but I do all right with social media. But I know social media just makes me a little bit too, sometimes it makes me anxious. And then the other thing is too, like, if I'm too busy focusing on everyone else on social media, I can lose focus on myself. So yeah, I'll jump in there and I'll use social media for my own benefits and stuff like that. But I don't actually jump on there and watch a lot of what everybody else is doing too. I hope it doesn't influence, my brand and stuff like that.
Sure. Okay.
But
Uh,
yeah, even though I won't follow some of you people out there, man, feel free to follow me. So, yeah.
Yes, follow him in the bush. No,
Yeah.
I don't know why. But yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed him. The next episode is gonna be with comedy Asians. So it's an improv group, stand-up comedy group where they've set up groups
Oh,
supporting Asians in the UK. Uh,
that's cool.
and another act that I'm trying to get on is Frank Sinatra. I hope he's being a bit unclear with communication, but he dresses up as Adolf Hitler. He sings like Frank Sinatra. He's a very unique act. But yeah, they're likely to be my next few guests. Hope you've enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, bro. Thank you for